Even though many celebrities are known for their talent and success in the entertainment industry, they also have their own unique and often strange hobbies that might surprise you. They also have their own hobbies. Unique and often strange, which may surprise you. These celebrities have hobbies that go far beyond the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Join me. I'm going to analyze the 15 weirdest hobbies of the celebrities. Let's get started. Number 15, Beyoncé's beehives. Beyoncé is a singer, actress, and philanthropist, and she's a well-known name since the 1990s. And even though her resume is one of the longest and most impressive in the world, she has a hobby that's really making waves. Beekeeping. Very fitting for the queen bee, right? Well, when the world stopped in 2020, many people shifted their energies to new things. And for Beyoncé Knowles, it was all about the bees. In a 2020 interview with Vogue magazine, she mentioned that she had 2 hives at home. And while that may not seem like much, the megastar has said that just those 2 hives house a whopping 80,000 worker bees that supply her and her family hundreds of jars of honey a year. It's a good business. It's also said that 2 of her kids were born with some pretty tough allergies. And thanks to the honey from the bees, many of those ailments have been eased or completely disappeared. Honey isn't just a natural delight. It also has some amazing healing properties, and for centuries, cultures around the world have used it to treat various ailments. The nutrients and antioxidants help reactivate oxygen in the body, restoring cells and healing the body from the inside out. Some will even tell you that natural honey has deep anti-aging properties. Maybe that's why she looks so timeless. Number 14, Mike Tyson. Iron Mike has gone down in history as one of the greatest boxers of all time. The former heavyweight champion fought 58 matches during his professional career, of which 44 ended with a knockout of his opponent. That means a knockout percentage of 75%. But the boxer also has a more sensitive side. He loves birds, specifically pigeons. Despite what you might think, Tyson has loved pigeons long before he ever stepped into the ring. He became fond of birds from a very young age, keeping them as pets and taking care of them. It's even rumored that the first punch he threw was at one of his birds. When an older kid supposedly killed one of his pigeons, Tyson punched him in the face to avenge his beloved pet. Despite being one of the greatest American athletes in history, Tyson has had a pretty tough life. It's not uncommon for people to find meaning, comfort, and love in pets like dogs and cats. Tyson found these feelings in the pigeons. He loves his flock, and they teach him a level of zen that boxing doesn't always provide. In 2019, Iron Mike's pigeon coop housed over 70 pigeons that he and his family take care of every day. And he knows each bird individually. The man has become something of an expert, even giving talks and classes about how to take care of birds. This hobby might be a bit strange, but it's also really beautiful. Number 13, Tracy Morgan's fish tanks. Tracy Morgan is definitely one of the funniest people on the planet. So it makes sense that he has one of the most fun hobbies. Morgan is living the high life in his mansion in New Jersey with extravagant fish tanks all over the place. One of them is literally built into his pool table and houses 2 amazing alligator gars. In the back of the property, there's a 20-gallon tank that houses a beautiful coral reef and a whopping 8 sharks that manage to live in harmony without tearing each other apart. Can you get any crazier? Of 8 sharks that manage to live in harmony without destroying each other. Can you get any crazier? When it comes to Tracy Morgan, yes, the crown jewel of his home aquarium collection. It's the Jawstein tank. Comparatively speaking, it's smaller, with just 2,700 gallons of water. But it's big enough to hold 6 of his sharks. But it's the look of the tank that makes it so amazing. A gigantic shark covers the tank. This tank is famous from TV show Tanked. Not just the tank and the fish inside, but also a huge ship. This tank is so well known and so fun that it has appeared several times on the TV show Tanked over the years. Having a private aquarium is great, but having a great sense of humor is even better. Number 12. Steve Cohen is a hedge fund manager in New York with about $24,500 millions of dollars in assets under his belt. He's got a lot of money and knows how to spend it. He has an incredibly impressive art collection in his home. Although he is not an artist, Cohen refers to his collection as trophy art, meaning he buys incredibly expensive works just so he can have them. What started as buying works from Monet to Monet? Cohen bought a painting by David Jeff for $52 million, a piece by Picasso for $150 million, and a sculpture by Jeff Koons for $90.1 million. The most expensive artwork ever sold by a living artist. But Cohen raised the bar to 11. In 2004, the hedge fund manager bought a creepy piece of contemporary art. A 13-foot tiger shark, perfectly preserved in alcohol and formaldehyde. Why? Ask him. This pickled shark was originally purchased for $93,000 in 1992 by art mobile challenger Sabache, with the title The Physical Impossibility of Death in the Mind of Someone Living. But the moment it caught Cohen's attention, the price skyrocketed. When Cohen bought the piece for an undisclosed amount, the media reported that he paid between $8 and $12 million. For the apex predator, it may be a lot of money for an ugly installation, but Steve Cohen is known for sinking his teeth into contemporary art. And when he smells blood in the water, he always goes all in, regardless of the price. Number 11, Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton is one of the first famous people just for being famous. But as she grew older, the heiress calmed down a bit, becoming a little more realistic. Now, the former TV star takes a bit more time for herself away from the spotlight. You might think that someone with a net worth of $300 million has some pretty extravagant hobbies. But that's not the case with Hilton. One of Hilton's favorite pastimes is frog hunting, which means wandering around her multiple ranches, finding frogs, putting them in her basket, and then releasing them back into the wild. With ranches outside of Oakland, California, another in Nevada, and his own private island, I'm sure you have plenty of frogs to hang out with. There are also rumors that Hilton is a big fan of vintage radios, which she collects from place to place. At estate sales and antique shops, looking for old AM/FM receivers and their parts, especially in Europe. Considering that she later became a DJ, it's not out of the question. Plus, she restores vintage items. Considering he later became a DJ, it's not out of the question. Also, restore old objects. It's a great way to remember to slow down while learning to appreciate how things work. Number 10, hairstyles of Katy Perry. Katy Perry has sported dozens and dozens of hairstyles and wigs throughout her career. From a long black mane to bubblegum pink hair. The pop star has done it all, but her love for hair doesn't stop at the follicles on her head. During a radio interview, Perry said she keeps some interesting things in her purse, like hair strands from other celebrities. In this particular interview, she claimed that she carries around strands of Miley Cyrus and Taylor Swift. How did she get that hair? The pop star shared a dressing room with Cyrus and Swift during the Grammy Gala, and all she did was ask for it. Ask, and you shall receive. I guess the singers agreed, and Perry literally wrapped her respective singer's hair in a bow and put it in her bag. And who knows what other hair lives in Perry's bag. Number 9, books by Bill Gates. Billionaire Bill Gates is known for being an avid reader and claims to read an astonishing 50 books a year. Most of us might read just a small handful in that same time frame. But Gates also owns one of the coolest and weirdest books in history. The Codex Leicester, or the Codex Hammer. It's a collection of scientific writings by the great Leonardo da Vinci. Obviously, something like that fetched a high price, as it changed hands over the centuries. but it got its current name in 1717 after being acquired by Thomas Codex, the Earl of Leicester. Currently, the manuscript holds the record for the 5th highest sale price of any book, and it was sold to billionaire Bill Gates at a Christie's auction held on November 11, 1994, in New York. If we take inflation into account, the current price far exceeds $56 million. The historic notebook is bound in leather and consists of 36 pages measuring just 29 by 22 centimeters. The manuscript does not take the form of a single linear script, but is rather a mixture of Leonardo's observations and theories on astronomy, properties of water, rocks, fossils, air, and celestial light. You know, just the typical thoughts of a genius. But don't think this old codex is just sitting on Gates' shelf next to computer programming for dummies. The Codex Leicester has been unbound, with each page individually mounted between glass. It's displayed to the public once a year in a different city around the world. On the occasion of the 500th anniversary of Da Vinci's death, the Codex Leicester was exhibited from October 29, 1929, from October 2018 to January 20, 2019, in Florence. Bill Gates is also known for being an avid reader, so it makes a lot of sense that he would geek out over a codex. Number 8. Angelina Jolie. In the 90s, it seemed like Angelina Jolie was everywhere. She was a wild child of Hollywood and a great actress. Just ask her Oscar. But she's also had an incredible life, in which she has reaped money, praise, and philanthropic achievements. And she hasn't even turned 50 yet. She's done a lot in a short amount of time. She studied to be a funeral director and embalmer. She is a citizen of the United States, Bosnia, and Cambodia, and she even has a pilot's license. But as if she had. Inspired by an old film role, Jolie feels like a real-life Lara Croft, thanks to one of her strange hobbies. She's an avid collector of daggers. According to an interview given in 2008 to W magazine, Jolie started honing her skills at the tender age of 11. Her mother got into collecting them, and since then, she hasn't stopped. At the age of 11, her mother became interested in collecting them, and she has not stopped doing so since then, building an impressive collection. Jolie is known to go for specific knives and can often be found browsing in specialty stores. She has even passed on her love for the art to her son Madonna, and the young one has a small collection of his own. In total, the actress and screenwriter has been collecting daggers and knives for nearly 4 decades. So the real question is whether she knows how to use them. Well, considering that Jolie has starred in many action movies, it's safe to say she knows what she's doing. Number 7. Rosario Dawson. Rosario Dawson has played nerdy roles throughout her long career as an actress. She has appeared in Clerks, Dawson City, voiced Wonder Woman, and even played a Jedi. But there's more to it than just the money. Rosario Dawson is known for being a big nerd in her life outside of acting. In fact, if you've been to San Diego Comic-Con, you might have rubbed elbows with her on the floor. Dawson is a huge fan of Star Trek. She goes to conventions in her free time and with her own money. And she's even been heard speaking Klingon both at conventions and on talk shows. For those who don't know, Klingon is a fictional language spoken by the warlike race of Klingon from the Star Trek universe. The language is very developed. The Klingon dictionary was published in 1985 and is taught in classes in the United States. Although Dawson probably didn't enroll in any of those courses, the language is more accessible than ever and is included in the Duolingo app. Dawson has said in several interviews that her dream as an actress would be to participate in a new version of Star Trek. Ideally in the role of Q, a being who jumps through dimensions and a beloved recurring character who masters both space and time. Number 6. Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks has often been called the father of America. So what? What's a better hobby for a dad than collecting old typewriters? They take up way less space than old cars. You can bet on that. Tom Hanks He told the New York Times that he's been collecting typewriters since he was a teenager. While it's true that he's cut back on expenses since then, there was a time when he had hundreds of typewriters in his collection at once. Maybe Mr. Hanks understands something that the rest of us, especially the younger ones, don't. We can't understand. In a world where writing is literally at our fingertips, autocorrect does a lot of the heavy lifting. And emojis can convey complex thoughts in a simple way. Typewriters remind Hanks of a slower, simpler time. If you wanted to write something, you needed not only a typewriter, but also paper and ink ribbon. And when that ran out, there was no 2-day shipping to come to the rescue. Furthermore, many of these antique typewriters were handmade, so each one was unique. Hanks has also said that as he got older and moved more and more, he had to get rid of a lot of the physical things he owned. It can be tough not having physical possessions to keep you grounded. Collecting typewriters is Hank's way of writing his story however he sees fit. Now, the only question that comes up when collecting such bulky items is, where does he keep them? A way to write his story however he sees fit. Now, the only question that comes up when collecting such bulky items is, where does he keep them? Number 5, James Deep Sea, Challenger. It's no secret that filmmaker James Cameron has a ton of money lying around. But he also has one of the most unique hobbies in the world: exploring the deep sea. He spent $8 million on his submarine, the Challenger. And even though it's an incredibly expensive vessel, that amount is just a drop in the bucket. Cameron's Challenger was able to dive to depths of over 10,000 meters. The vessel is less than 1.20 millimeters wide, and it's so packed with equipment that Cameron had to sit with his knees bent, and he could barely move due to the lack of space. It's really surprising that someone with so much money decided to take on the depths by himself. That number had to sit with his knees bent and could barely move due to lack of space. It's really surprising that someone with that much money decided to brave the depths himself, instead of paying a remote-operated vehicle to do it for him. But I guess that's the dedication of a good filmmaker. The circuit boards of the Challenger were specially designed for the vessel and included over 180 systems like sonar and batteries, and the 1,100-pound ballast to keep it submerged. And while the bells and whistles of the deep-sea Challenger aren't as exciting as those of other vessels we've seen so far, it's easy to see where all that money has gone. Because when you're diving to such depths, like he does, the pilot's safety is way more important than comfort and luxury. It's pretty easy to see where all that money has gone. Because when you're diving to such depths, like he does, the pilot's safety is way more important than comfort and luxury. But it's clear that it's worth it. Because Cameron used the submarine to break the world record for solo diving to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Number 4, Rosario O'Donnell. I walked into Rosario O'Donnell's office in Manhattan, and you'll find the walls decorated with photos of family, friends, and former guest stars on her talk show like Madonna, Meg Ryan, and Liz Taylor. She even has a handwritten note from Barbra Streisand hanging on the wall. There are also rows of wooden shelves covered in McDonald's toys. But don't touch them, because even her sister Maureen has said in interviews that if you touch them, if you move them, even just a centimeter, Rosario will know and have a few words for you. O'Donnell has been collecting Happy Meal toys for years, so naturally, she has quite a few rarities among them. In total, she has accumulated over 2,500 toys, which she started collecting during her comedy tours in the mid-'80s. When asked about her strange hobby, she says it simply reminds her of her childhood. But O'Donnell doesn't even need to eat at McDonald's to get the latest toys. The company, as well as O'Donnell's die-hard fans, will gift her the new toys as they hit the market. One of the most unique toys on her shelf is the 101 Dalmatians, which she admits she didn't even have to search for herself. But the Happy Meal toys aren't the only childhood mementos that the comedian keeps in her office. Her huge toy collection includes the original 1960s Chatty Cathy doll, a Miss Beasley from Family Affair, and figures from classic TV shows like Star Trek and I Dream of Jeannie. Number 3. Mila Kunis. When World of Warcraft was released in 2004, it took the world by storm. Millions of players around the world flocked to the store to create mages, warriors, hunters, and paladins, and raid with people from all over the world. You never knew who you were playing and killing on the other side of the screen, but there was a chance you could be fighting alongside Mila Kunis. Mila Kunis is a self-proclaimed nerd and recovering WoW addict. The actress has shared in several interviews that she used to run around the realm as a gnome mage, dressed with pink pigtails, casting ice and fire magic during her many quests and campaigns in Stormwind. Her gnomes are named Captain Janeway, inspired by the captain of the starship Voyager, but like so many WoW players, Kunis had to give it up. She got so involved in her time in the digital world that her agent had to create a character, log in, and send messages to Kunis through the game server just to get in touch with her. Luckily for fans of Family Guy and that series from the 70s, Kunis eventually lost interest in the game, officially logging off after a few years. But the question still hangs in the air. Will the pink-haired Captain Janeway with ice and fire missiles ever return to Azeroth? Number 2. Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart was a rock icon and a well-known name in the 1970s. But the singer is much more than just music. The British rocker has been collecting model trains since he was a kid, and that hobby stuck with him well into his old age. In 2019, he showcased his magnum opus, a 1,500 square foot replica of the post-war rail systems of Chicago and New York. He called his labor of love Grand Steve and Three River City, and his photorealistic creation took 23 painstaking years to build. A lot of that work took place while he was on tour. Rod Stewart's 1:87 scale railroad features skyscrapers that are 1.5 meters tall, vintage locomotives, a river with a boat, a power plant, and tiny passengers. With the appropriate period attire, it takes up almost the entire 3rd floor of his Beverly Hills mansion. The details are as impressive as they are meticulous. Dressed in appropriate period attire, she takes up almost the entire 3rd floor of her Beverly Hills mansion. The details are as impressive as they are meticulous. Stewart says that the idea for the model railroad and the urban landscape came from the tracks near his home in North London, and that he did 90% of the work himself. Stewart took parts of the model on tour, bluing and painting sections of the urban landscape and the skyscrapers in particular, in an extra hotel room. Of course, it's not the worst thing a rock star has done in a hotel while on tour. Well, according to him, as a child he was given a toy railroad and later developed the hobby. But when he asked his dad for a toy train station, his dad gave him a guitar. And the rest, as they say, is music history. Number 1. He went to space during the Cold War. The United States and the former Soviet Union entered the space race, in which, for better or for worse, both countries pushed themselves and each other to the limits of technology and engineering. To see who could reach the stars first, there was great success on both sides, since both the Soviet Union and the United States kept raising the bar higher and higher for each other. These days, it seems like billionaires are competing to see which one can get to space first. It's a strange race, no doubt, but it's already underway. Billionaires like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Richard Branson have invested billions of dollars in their respective personal spaceflight programs. Blue Origin, SpaceX, and Virgin Galactic. Bezos, in particular, spent over $5,500 million for 4 minutes in suborbital space, wearing a cowboy hat on board his ship. Blue Origin, millions of dollars for 4 minutes in suborbital space with a cowboy hat on board your ship. Blue Origin, just so Branson could do the same just a few days earlier. But what sets this pretentious space race apart from the past is that these billionaire competitors aren't inventing new technologies. Instead, it's a race to see who can buy the best parts and the best engineers. In a world with massive heat waves, hunger, and natural disasters, it seems like these billionaires would rather turn their backs on the immense nothingness of space. But even billionaires are literally hoping to get in on the space trend. Nothing about space, But even billionaires are literally hoping to get in on the space trend, with celebrities like Ashton Kutcher depositing $20,000 for a $200,000 ticket to space, and Katy Perry buying a full ticket for the same price for her husband, Russell Brand, before their divorce. Sending people to space used to be a way to learn more about a world that's foreign to ours and to put things into perspective. Where do we fit in the grand scheme of the universe? But nowadays, it seems to have become the most outlandish hobby of the rich and famous. Until next time.